All right. I think we are ready. We ready? We're ready. We're ready. Have to do a little bit of housekeeping. Okay, so where are we at? I think we are episode 20, I believe. Okay. 19, 20. Okay. So let's get to business. All right, snaps. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and today this is part 3 of how I make comics, my method, my process, what I go through using Clip Studio Paint. And the example is Beautiful Beast Kiss, a character I created. And this character started as just like what would you call it? On a whim. I was just messing around, as one does, and then a character just pops out, right? And it's like, oh, okay, no, what am I gonna do with this thing? And in the course of thinking about the character and working out who the character is, usually stories start to develop. So let's do a short brief on this character. Beautiful Beast Kiss is the central character. She's the one in the center, and in the basics is she has a gem on her left arm called the Cat's Eye Gem. And the Cat's Eye Gem allows her to absorb energy from the Allspark crystal that allows her to jump through dimensions. And in every dimension, she looks different. And it just started as an idea from my, like a practice program, so that I could try to, work out with this character and see what she looked like with impersonating other people's styles. So say Yoji Shinkawa, who did the Metal Gear Solid art. What would she look like in that dimension? What would she look like in a Mike Mignola dimension? What would she look like in, insert whatever artist or thing that I like? And so in the course of doing some of those things, I came up with her personality, a story, and then the friends that she meets, obstacles to overcome, and all of that. And I started doing little stuff for Inktober. And it was just a way for me to practice inking and other stuff and working out with this character. And a story started to develop. Whoops. And in the course of making that story, things develop and change. So let's take a look at this is the character. And do I have any? Yes. And right now we are on chapter 4, I believe. But in some, do I have? Let's see. Yes. Okay. So, in the process of doing this stuff, I was practicing with the lead character, Beautiful Beast Kiss, and her side characters, her friends. On my right screen, screen left, is Moktun, the turtle bull mythical creature character, very young. I call him the youngest of the mythics. Just above him is Starbot, a small robot that she met in chapter 1. I need to get all of these up onto my website, but anyways. Starbot took one of his crystals. Moktun also had a crystal. She absorbed some of that. To my left, screen right, is DC, the demon cat, twin-tailed demon cat. He is the mystical, magical, cool character. He was in the 3rd chapter, I believe. And we'll take some examples because I want to show examples of a more developed comic, like where the process leads to. Today we're going to be doing some drawings on chapter 4. But yes, this is what these characters look like in one dimension as opposed to another. So it just allows me to practice with character designs. I love doing character designs. And then playing with style, right? What is chibi style? What would you look like in comic book style? What could she look like in European comic style, manga, all sorts of stuff. Right? Character, title, beautiful peace kiss. And every chapter she has a splash image where she gets victory over an obstacle. And then this is the win pose, shall we say. So this was chapter 2, I believe. And this was chapter 3. Right? So I like to have a victory pose. But also from chapter 3, these were the characters. DC, which has been seen before. I remodeled the character for that chapter, Beautiful Beast Kiss, in that dimension. Moon Rabbit, called Bunny, and Birdie, who is also, these three are on the work for the Moon Princess. A psychopomp of the Honorable Good Dead, and they help souls go on to their final destinations in the good area of heaven, or next destination for the dead. But now that brings us to what we were doing for this one. So we're at chapter 4. Let's collapse this. And what was that? Yes. Okay. So in this dimension, it's underwater. I try to have some kind of if there's an overall arching theme, I try to develop the character for that theme. I think the last one was Chibi and the Moon. This one is underwater. So I tried to add some ideas on underwater, right? Mokhtun is already a sea creature, sort of. A bull turtle creature. DC is magical, and he'll be just fine wherever he goes. But I wanted to develop Beautiful Beast Kiss in this dimension. So looking at reference, gathering reference, where is that? Here we go. So I try to keep my reference gathering. I could do it for days and weeks, just going through a large database and files of reference. But for this one, she's a tiger girl, tiger shark. I looked at the front of this image, the front of a tiger shark, and I noticed it was a very square-ish shape, and I thought I could use that for her head shape. Also, the dorsal fins and the tail. I used the tail for the ears, the ear shape. Also, it has stripes, but she already has stripes. So I wanted to get, I try to go with 3 so that I'm not overwhelming myself. So 3 of tiger shark. Chosp is a graphic novel by Alessandro Barbucci. This is a great comic. I love this comic. So I like this head shape of Chosp. Chosp is the main character, and he's trying to figure out who he is. And he lives with this very rich lady. He has a nanny and a friend who's trying to help him figure out what he is, who he is. It's a very cute I want to say it's like French manga-ish, if that right. It's great. I like that. The first one is first few pages are in color, and then it's mostly black and white. And the second half, well, the second book is I think all color. I really love these two. But also for the undersea adversary, something to overcome, I was using the idea of the Legend of Zelda series, the Zora. And so I was looking at these characters for the main adversary. Since it's underwater, a merperson, but this merperson is kind of a shapeshifter. And we'll go into that in a moment. Also for Beautiful Beast Kiss, I was looking at, what is this? The Creature of the Black Lagoon. Right, the webbed hands. What would an undersea monstrous, because I want her to be a little slightly more monstrous, slightly more dangerous. Cute, but, cute but kind of monstrous. Cute but kind of dangerous. Something within that realm. Not totally cutesy. So those were the reference I gathered for it. And of course, do I have the color? I take the idea, print it out, draw on top to try to solidify the designs. Also with color. And yeah. All right. Because once I have the character designs, I do a brief basic color just to get an idea what the color, is there color schemes and how do they work together. All right. I try not to have characters too close together in coloration so that they're easily distinguishable. So we got lead character, Mok'Tun, and DC. And I guess the mer person is going to be like a palish green for the first form. All right, so let's get to some pages. I guess first let's save. Always save. Okay. So that's that. So let's go 2 pages. Now my pages always start really simple. I start with the 2-page, just a brief outline, mostly written text and some loose drawings. And then I format that to comic pages, and I try to work out the formatting. So in the West, we are in a Western nation where we read from left to right, left to right. So page 1 is always going to be a right-handed page. And when you turn that page, is page 2 is on the left hand, page 3 is on the right. So odd number pages are on the right hand side, even is on the left hand side. So I try to remember that. It helps if you draw that out so that you know where the page is, so that you can focus on page turns. So like the bottom right corner, you want something that would think about making something interesting that an audience would then turn the page to know what happens to next, right? So a comic is images in sequence, right? Each panel is an amount of time in space, right? And we read top, upper left to the bottom right, and we read from left to right. So for this, page 1, let's break down this page. Everything starts with an early holder folder. I try to keep my stuff organized because I have messed up in the past trying to dig through different files or different layers, just trying to find this one thing that I need. So I try to keep myself much more organized. Of course, you'll make your own process that works best for you. and how you work, but my process, or my, I'm still, I guess, in the process of, getting this down as a format for myself, but this is pretty much how I go about it. I always start with this early holder folder, and inside it, there is a sketch form, but we have to build up to this. Below that is the thumbnail version. I've turned the opacity way down. So this was a very early form before I knew what the character looked like. And this, I usually do that. I usually just start, right? Just keep moving. And then once you get the character design, then I can plug it in. Right. So yeah, just start. And then once you have the designs, you can plug those in a little bit later. But we have that thumbnail version. Below that is what I did in pen just to get the idea out. And below that is the original. Right, this is just, I guess, a Sharpie pen for the page, and then just a regular pen. I don't think it's a ballpoint, but it's a roller ball pen. I like the flow of the ink that comes out of it. So I didn't even have on this thing the bottom what would happen. So I shifted it around, shifted the image around. Below that is the comic template. So here's what a just basic page looks like. And if I go to, let me see, what is it? View. And what is it? I think it's grid rulers settings. Let me see if that works. Or is it default border? Let's try that. Yeah. Crop marks and default borders in the view. And you can see this. I think you can see this. All right, there are these marks that, so that you know where the live area is, where to keep your art within, and all of that. This is what is provided for you in Clip Studio Paint. So I use this, but also I have a copy of a comic page. This is a Strathmore. Yes. Strathmore comic page. If I take away crop marks and default borders, you can see it more clearly. And why I like having a comic page within this pre-built Clip Studio Paint comic page is so that I know if you're going to be working with a major, right, like a Marvel, a DC, an Image Comics, or any variation of that, this is their standard comic template, right? It has some indications, right? Trim areas, the line, like live line. Keep your stuff within certain areas, like this dotted line is for mostly text. This wide dash. The thinner dash is for the drawings mostly, because in the earlier times, before all the digitalness, right, of the world, they actually had to print it on paper, and when you sent it to the printer and they were going to cut it, the cut marks might be off just a little bit. So you wanted to keep your drawings, and especially your text and all important information within a certain area so that it's not cut off. So the trim is where they're going to trim it, right? Where they're going to cut. The live area is you keep everything within the live area. Also keep all lettering inside the live area, as it says here. It prints at 67%, but the page is 11 by 17. At the top, well, all bleed art must extend to the solid line. There's stuff for your name of the comic, the date, the book, the issue number, and the page number. And I try to fill this out now because I have dropped a stack of pages and had to then figure out, okay, which page is which page. And I realized, oh, so this is here for a reason. It's like, yes, it is. And so that is all of that, instructions for stuff. So that's why I like to keep, so just in case I know what a Marvel or a DC or an Image, what their pages would kind of sort of look like. Usually Marvel, DC will send out a template page that has their markings on it. So that is folder stuff. Let's bring back that. View, crop marks, and default borders. Yep. All right. So there's the early holder folder. There's the paper that's white below it. It doesn't matter. I don't use this page. There's a blank above it. Also, I leave it, well, it's, I think it's just called layer in the beginning. I retitle it blank and I leave it blank. And I'll discuss why in a moment. I have my text layer. Well, actually, let's bring back the artwork so we know what we're talking about. Okay. Here's some of the artwork. I have a layer for the frames and panels. Again, comics are, everything works within a panel, and it is a sequence of a story, right? It is like in animation, a still frame. And then below that, frame panels, is my text layer. And this is where I write my text. So that's page one. I don't need to save it because I didn't really do anything major. But page one is she's just come to this dimension. Right? There's a pillar sticking out of the ocean. A wave comes by, washes her onto this little pillar. She lies there, and then she realizes she can't breathe. She starts to, choke, and then she has to jump off the pillar and back into the water. And that is page one. Page two. Now that she's in the water, she can breathe. And in every comic chapter, she goes through what I call a body check, usually on the first or second page. And so that's what she does here. She, my tail, my hands, and gills. And so she's taking inventory of what she looks like in this new dimension. And she was trying to get to the moon, and she thought she could get there. But she is not on the moon. She is in the water now. And she has to, okay, so she's taking stock of what just happened. I'm not on the moon. My body is different. This is another dimension. And she wonders why she's here in this new dimension, and now that she's in the water. And then her cat's eye starts to glow, and then it starts to direct her in that direction of an allspark crystal energy. And she goes, a new adventure begins. Right? And then she lands not on the bottom, but she lands at the bottom of not the sea, I guess, because there are deeper parts, but And then she springs forward, tiger shark go. That is page 3. Page 4 is a transition, right? A hard transition where we see characters that we have not been introduced to. But mystery figure asks, do you want more tea and sea cucumber sandwiches? Mockton says, yes. Yours are so much better than the sea witches. Plus, you don't threaten to eat me. All right, so these three are having a conversation. And I think from last week, I changed some of this dialogue. And that happens often, right? When in the beginning, you're not quite sure what the flow is. And so it's okay to change your dialogue, your drawings, whatever you need to do to make the art better art. So Montan's, he wants more sandwiches, and he talks about the sea witch and how she doesn't she threatens to eat him. DC the demon cat says, let's not be bad guests. But the mer person says, never fear, there's plenty. Leads to page 5. More tea. And DC, the demon cat, says, yes, please. And the mer person, your training is going very well, DC. And then he takes a sip, notices something's off, and it goes, blech. Not well enough. I'll let you practice while I get Mockton more sea cucumber sandwiches. And then the mer person exits. And that was page 5. So, don't save. I think today we're going to end with page 10. Let's see. So that was page 5. I put all my stuff in a folder. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So 5 to 10 is what we'll work on today. Here we go. Okay. So my person leaves. That was page 5. Page 6. As you'll notice that the page 6 is different in style, because I then now know what DC looks like, right? His slight redesign. And so whenever I get the character designs in a better state, I notice I go more and more towards what they look like. But also on this, let's see, is it in here? Hold a folder. I put reference somewhere. Oh, here we go. It's the very top. I can usually put it in a folder sometimes, or just leave it as the top, so that I can keep myself on track. Right? Once you have a proper drawing, you can do a turnaround if you feel that's necessary, or if it's fairly complex. Usually I try to do at least a front view, maybe usually a 3/4 or something to that effect. You can do a turnaround. I feel that takes too much time. Yeah, and I'm just, I'll develop it as I go. And the characters will shift, because you'll get better and better as you draw the characters more and more for the chapter, however long the chapter is. In the beginning, I'd say don't go past Well, I try to make it as small as possible. If it's your first, I'd say do just a 4-page comic. As you know, get some reps under your belt, you can go higher to be divisible by 4. So then a 4-page comic to an 8-page comic, which is just, 2 full pages folded. That's the page count. To maybe 12. And then if you really want to go for it, 24, which is a standard floppy comic page. Comic, I don't want to say chapter. Yeah, you can say, call it a chapter. If you're going to add it to a graphic novel, they try to put 6 of those together into one graphic novel. So that's reference character. All right. So DC feels something is off. And then it says to himself, this could be troublesome. Mach-Tun is eating a sandwich, looks up, thinking that he's talking about him, but he's not. Takes a sip of his tea, and that's when Beautiful Beast appears, right, as the shadowy figure. And she says, well, hello again. And Mach-Tun, all these characters have met before. But Mach-Tun from chapter 2, he goes, hey, bees, which is what he calls Beautiful Beast Kiss. He doesn't say the whole thing. He just calls her bees. Bees, you left me on that beach. He's pretty upset. And he charges. And then that leads us to page 7. And then he starts to, tiny fist of fury. You left me, you left me, you left me. You left me, how could you? And then Beautiful Beast Kiss tries to calm him down just a little bit. And then he noticed that she looks a little different. And then swims away from her and says, you're scary. And at first she doesn't realize like exactly what she looks like. But then she realized, oh yeah, I look different in this dimension. But she's always a go with the flow type character. So she's like, that's, she just smiles about it. And then this is page 8. Now page 8, I think, is where we left off last time. So page 8, page 9, and page 10 is what we'll be working on today. So let's do a quick rundown on page 8. So page 8, we have the mer person returning and noticing that there's a new person. And should we do dialogue? Yeah, probably should. All right, so this is how I do dialogue. So holder folder has all our usual, right? It has the art layers, and then we have the comic page template, and also the very basic, right? I turn on the opacity so that I just need an idea of what's going on the page, and then I can draw it better. And usually I go through phases. The first phase is a thumbnail phase. Second phase is the rough sketch phase. Third phase is the tight pencils. Well, between a tight pencils and a sketch phase. Since I'm doing it all myself, there is no handoff. I can pretty much do as whatever I want, because there is, I don't have to explain to somebody else, okay, this part is going to be inked, this part is not. It's all me, so I'm pretty loose with I can be pretty loose with my art. So that is that. In the holder folder, there is the layer that I then title blank. Above that is the text layer. There is nothing in the text layer, but I make the folder anyways because this is where we're going to put our text. Also, frames and panels, and on top of that, I have a reference folder. So where I put my reference files. All right. So if I need to quick check what they look like before I start drawing again, I can, turn this on, turn this off. But let's go to the frames and panels. All right, so frames and panels is the the hot key shortcut. I had to work that one out. The hot key shortcut is U. Hit U twice, or from the bottom of the icons on the left, my left screen right. Right. Frame borders is U. Right. So go to create frame. Create frame. Make sure the color is black, or if you wanted it a color, you can change that here. And then I select on from the, this is why the view crop marks and default borders is checked. So that now all I have to do is touch this corner. It's the innermost corner in Clip Studio Paint program. Drag that down and it'll snap to where it needs to be. Snap it, let go, and it'll make the border. The purple is out of bounds. All right. So now that I have that, I usually start with that part, and then we hit U. Well, go to cut frame borders, which is the button next to create frame. Cut frame borders, divide frame border. It's the bottom option. I usually use this one early on. The divide frame folders will make every panel its own folder. And in the beginning, I don't want to use up all that computational power, so I just use divide frame borders. I start with the horizontals before working on the verticals. So hold down Shift, and that's panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, and by holding down Shift, it'll make it straight. If I don't hold down Shift, it'll spin. Right? And I can change the degrees of the angle. And you'll see this a lot in Manga. But I don't want that right now. So after the horizontal, I do the verticals. So for the lower 3 panels, especially, let's do this and this. And there we have our panels. I collapse it down and I put this, it's usually outside of the frame panels folder. So I drop it in. And so now I know where my frame panels are. So now that I'm on that layer, hit O, which is the operational button. On the far, my left screen right is the third, yes, icon third from the top is the operational button, or just hit O. And now I can shift these panel borders. So let's say I want it to get maybe a little bit bigger. as we go down. So just a little larger than that. But this is another way where you can try to influence how the audience will feel about a certain panel by giving it, you know, it can be either very small and cramped or very large and, you know, spacious. For the very first panel, I usually like to have it open so that, you know, it invites the viewer in to the scene, like wide shots of a environment. I usually like those. Let's see, this one. Let's see, I leave this one like it is. So panel 4 is fine. But let's say I want this one just a little bit bigger. And then this one, let's say this one goes all the way to the edge. So by hitting this little white triangle, it goes, come on now. There we go. All the way to the edge. All right. So now I have the panel. What I can also do is I can create the white frame, but we'll leave that for another time. Actually, no, we won't. Let's do that now. Okay. So white border. White border. Also called gutters. Let's see. White gutters. So, let's turn everything else off except for that. No text. That blank is gone. The white paper is gone. And this is what it looks like. All right, that totally blank checker box. And what I do is I go make sure the color is white. Hit the G twice. And this is for the fill. Fill, the shortcut hotkey is G, hitting G twice. So then I drop that in. Makes it white. Hit W for the magic wand. And I have magic wand set to refer to all layers. And I make sure that the layers that I want are the layers that I need, are the frame panels and the white border. And then I check the first one. And it did both these top two panels. I delete, touch in the third, and did the third and fourth. I delete, touch into the fifth. Let's see if it does it. Delete and delete. And so now I have my white gutters. And so now when I draw, let's see, folder. Let's bring everything back. Command D to deselect from the magic wand tool. All right, so that now it helps to, now you know where the gutters and the white area is, so that when I have backgrounds, I draw the backgrounds, I turn the white border off, and I just draw willy-nilly. Right? I extend past the panel borders, and I can draw things. Let's make a new layer. So hit the P twice for the pencil tool, and say you're, no. Make sure it's black. Say you're drawing. Right. If I did the panels as their own separate folders, there's a way to keep all that information from spilling outside, so you don't see that. But since this is just early version, I'm not too worried about it. But if I turn this white border on, it would eliminate what's outside of the panels within reason. All right. So now let's do some text. So text folder, turn that on. Now, for the text, I always go to the blank. Touch the blank layer, because this Clip Studio Paint, there's, I don't know what to call it, oddities about each program. And you got to figure out what the oddities are. What are the oddities for Clip Studio Paint is that the text will go into the frames panel, but I don't want them in the frames panel, so I put them in the text folder. But it'll automatically do it on its own, and also it'll to separate the text to be separate. And I'll show you an example of two pieces of text on the same layer as opposed to different layers. So go to the blank layer, and let's say he says, the mer person, hit T twice, and I go to the ellipse balloon, and he says, hit T again for the text, touch within the balloon, and type, exclamation mark. Well, exclamation mark, question mark. Oh. A new friend or a guest? Oh, a guest? A guest? How about dot, dot, dot? Dot, dot. Oh, a guest? Question mark. And now, these three icons below what I just did as the text. The text also I got from Blambot. It's a web letter R. Let's see. Yeah, web letter BB regular. Blambot has free and also paid text that you can download and use. Also, there are other sites that I can't quite remember that also have text for comic work and other things. Or you could also just do it in Photoshop or here in Clip Studio Paint. It all depends, right? What you're looking for, what text you think looks the best for your individual style and comic. But anyways, for text, if I select all of it, I usually have it at 0.8.0. That's my normal font size. I increase it if I want my character to shout or a simulation of shouting. Till 14, maybe 15 is my max. And it goes as low as about 6 if the character is perceived whispering. And that's usually how I do my text. So back to 8. If everything's good, I can close that out. The X is if you want to cancel. The check mark is all good. So let's go all good. And now that we have our text, we want to adjust the balloon. And we hit O for the operation button again. That's the third button on the far right, my left side icon. Third from the top. And with that, I can, right, you don't want the text swimming in it, and you don't want the text to be too tight. So I try to give some breathing room for the text. Oh, a guest. You can also shift the text by touching the text itself, and then I use arrow keys to nudge it within the balloon. And sometimes you need to do that because things, don't always quite line up, add up. Okay. If I touch out of it, hit the O and touch the border of the balloon, I can go back to altering it. So I try to keep the balloon within the frame. Now sometimes you're tight for space and can, move it so that it cuts off some of the balloon. But I try to keep it whenever possible within. Oh, a guest. And you'll notice that it put it inside my frames panel, but I want it inside the text folder. I try to keep everything organized. Go back to the blank, and let's say she says hello, or actually she's pretty casual. She's like Goku in that way. She'll just say, hit T for text twice. She just says, yo. Yo. Exclamation point. And let's make that text a little bit bigger. Yo. Let's say it's a 10. I can close that down. Check that. O for operation. And adjust it. I'm going to be moving a little bit faster using shortcut hotkeys and whatnot. Nudging it with the arrows. Yo. And let's say he says, we'll put this into the text folder. Go back to the blank. And let's say he says, what will he say? What will he say? T twice. Balloon. Oh, I guess she says, yo. What should he say? T. He'll say, hello, would you like a snack? Or something like that. Hello. Exclamation point. Check that, yes. O for operations. Adjust this just a little bit. Right, and now if you want two balloons on the same layer, I'll hit T again. Hit it twice. And let's say he says, care for a snack. Care. Mm-hmm. Care for tea? Yeah, maybe that would be good. Care for no. Care for. Yeah, let's go with this night. Care for a snack. Let's say he just says that normally. Care for a snack. And yeah. O for operation. Now see, when I did the operation this time, it selected both of them. So now I'm adjusting both. But we don't want that. So Command Z, go to one that we do want to alter. And text is tricky. Text is a tricky fish. I still haven't quite got the hang of it. I'm getting better, but still not quite there. Okay. Oh, and let's nudge this just a little bit closer to what he said before. And now let's join them with a balloon tail. So T twice. T twice. Second from the bottom, there's dot balloon at the bottom, and then balloon tail. Select that. And usually I touch right underneath the text. Touch just outside of the balloon. Touch. And then double touch to end the balloon tail. Inside the second balloon. Double tap. And that's how we join two balloons. And also, we can point it towards his mouth. So touch near the text, touch just outside, and curve it towards his mouth. And why I make the text early in the process is that you can see that the characters are kind of bunched here. There's a lot of space on this side, not so much space on this side. So I can now, knowing where the text is, I can adjust. Also, we can put this inside the text folder. Okay. So that's that, and this is this. All right, so let's take the lasso tool, which is M, and Command T, and shift these guys around. So we'll have him just coming into frame. Hit return, Command D to deselect. We'll select the second one. Command T, shift that. Right, so now he is not competing, or the balloon is not on top of him, which is better. But let's nudge him towards this. Okay. Return, Command D. Let's leave this one blank. And then she's looking at him. And then she says, "You're it." So go back to the blank. Hit T twice, T twice. Go to that ellipse balloon, and touch within the balloon. And she says, "You're it." Exclamation point. How about 2 exclamation points? and make the text a little bit bigger. So that she's just slightly raising her voice. You are it. And check. O for the operations. Adjust this. Because it's a little heavy on the top, I'll nudge it down just a little bit. Say 2. Make it just slightly more balanced. In my mind, it might not touch outside, touch the line. There we go. There we go. Nudge it with the let's have it directly overhead. And his response is question mark. Back to blank. So again, if you want two balloons on the same layer, you don't touch blank. Well, that doesn't even make sense as a statement. In the text, in my text file, these two, where is it? Hello. Are on the same layer, and that's why they can be joined. But if you want two separate word balloons, you'd have to have them on 2 separate layers. And the layers make themselves when you make the balloon. So that is something to note. Okay, so blank. You'll get the hang of it the more you do it. I had to get used to this. T twice. Word balloon. T for the text, touch inside, and let's say 1 or 2 question marks. Let's say 1, but let's increase the size of this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Let's say that question mark is a 15. Also, let's rotate it just a little bit. Check. O for operation. And nudge that into place. And at this point, now that I have a working page, I don't need that. I have a working page. Now I know how much space I have, right? And now I can make adjustments. I try to get it as close to a real page. And also, let's save this. Put that in the text folder. Command S to save. But yes, I try to get it as close to a page format of how it will look at this stage, because it makes the later stages so much more easy. Again, I had to learn the hard way. I had to, I had some tricky parts where text is overlapping the character. It felt like it was too cramped. Right? There's too much space here. I can increase the size of her head or move her up. Now that I know how big the text is, right? It just makes, it just makes the formatting as you go along easier. So once I go to the rough sketch type pencil phase, it gets a lot easier. Okay, so now that that's saved, that is page, what is this? Page 8. So, what do we have? Oh, a guest. Oh, a guest. And she goes, yo. hello, care for a snack? And then he holds out a plate of tea and sea cucumber sandwiches. Actually, she probably should say something like, no thank you. Actually, yes, that. Where's the blank? There you go. No thank you. So tea twice. Tea again, touch inside. Dot, dot, dot. Well, let's just do dot, dot. Check. O. Adjust. And then T twice again. And since they're on the same layer, I can just make a new balloon. Touch within the balloon. And you'll see that the box connects these two. So that means that they're on the same level, on the same layer. And she goes, dot, dot. No. No thanks. And check. O. And touch the second balloon that I want to alter. And I can alter it. And since this one's bottom heavy, I'll touch the text and nudge it up just a little bit. Okay. Actually, let's touch that. Move it closer to the, with the arrow keys. Nudge it closer to the first balloon. T twice. Balloon tail. Touch just under the text, just outside of the balloon, and into the second balloon, and just under the text, just outside of the balloon, and towards the character who is speaking. No thanks. Actually, I think in these two panels, we'll probably have her looking at him, moving across her. So what do I mean? Let's drop that into text. So let's go to, let's delete this layer. We don't need that. Make a new layer. And let's say what did I just do? New layer. There we go. Come on. So P twice. And let's say he's just a silhouette. This is just a, and then, so he's on this side of her, and then he moves to this side of her. And I'm doing a very terrible job, but I just want to try to get my idea across. And let's, now that we have a better idea of what's going on in this panel, now we can alter stuff. And for the lasso tool, let's select her, Command T, and let's Holding shift, I can keep her aspect ratio the same. So shift her slightly to this side as he's going to come across her. And Command T. Select her on this side. Command T. And shift it. And also, I need to Alright, she's slightly chuckling to herself. Return, Command D to deselect, P, double P for the pencil tool. Let's she's got her gills on her neck. And her hair is right swaying with the water. Right, and she's looking at right, okay. Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay, so, okay, to shift this just a little bit. And then so he turns slightly towards her. Right. There we go. And that is page... What page is this? I don't need to clean this up, but it makes me feel better. Command D, deselect. All right. Remember, always remember to save. Save. So this is page 8. So before I collapse these ones out, let's recap. Okay, so the mer person, they're sitting with the 2 guests, DC, Demon Cat, and Montun. DC's practicing his water bending to keep the seawater out of his tea, and he's failing. Montun wants some more sea cucumber sandwiches, so the mer person goes to get it. DC senses something in the water. This could be troublesome. And lo and behold, Beautiful Beast Kiss enters. The two, well, Montun now realizes that she's here. Remembers that she left him on a beach. Charges. Gives her the the wailing of her life with his tiny fist of fury. She tries to calm him down. He gets freaked out, says you're scary. She realizes that maybe, yeah, she does look. She kind of likes it though. And mer person re-enters to see the 3 talking. Offers snacks. She politely refuses, but then realizes, you're where the energy signal from the cat's eye was happening earlier, but he's not quite aware, or seemingly not aware. So that is page 8. Page 9 needs a lot of work. Page 9 needs a lot of work. how it plays in my mind. She then accuses him that you have the Allspark crystal. Mach 10 says, don't do this. She gets into the fighting stance. The mer person says, the bringer of chaos, or something to that effect. She smiles, plants her foot, and then goes in for, she's a actions first, punch, punch, fight, fight first person. Not a delegator, let's say. Right, okay, so that's what I want to happen on this page. Page 10, that was page 9, page 10 is a continuation that she accused him of being something he's not, or appearing as something he's not. So little Mach 10 says, a sea witch. And DC says, not a sea witch. She is frozen. And he has her like paralyzed, like telekinesis or something. He's revealing his not so true form. And DC says, she's clever. She smiles. Gold flash, where she flashes her gold teeth. It blinds the not mer person. And then she slips out of his telekinesis grab, goes behind this rock. Mach 10 is shielding, DC's shielding Mach 10's eyes from the flash. The not mer person says, I'm blinded. And Beautiful Beast Kiss is behind a rock. Or she's taking a evasive maneuver to get around said non-mer person. So that, since this page is pretty much done, I need to add text, but let's go to page 9 where we do not have much on this page. So let's see. Are you not? Is there nothing in this folder? All right, so everything goes into this folder. There you go. Oh, never mind. What did I do? I did something. Hold on. Undo that. I have way too many folders in there. Okay. So take these out. I think I know what I was supposed to do. So in making comics, right? I have a system. I hate these cars. I have a system where I do everything on a different folder. So the holder folder is the entrance folder where everything goes into in the, I don't want to say, well, pre-production, production phase. After that, I title one folder for the background. So BG, and usually it's under, although sometimes there can be an over layer. So BG under. And then I have a comics page folder. Comic page folder. And then above that, I can have a BG or background over. So I can have an under and an over. I can also have an effects folder in case, you want to separate everything out into, special effects, sound effects, all of that. You can have those in different folders so you can turn those on and off. So let's call this BG over, or sound effects, or effects. And then I have my text folder, which you've seen, and my frames panel border. My frames panel folder. Yeah. So usually I always start with the holder folder, and I draw something to get a better idea of where I do need to place the panels. So let's do what happened on page 8. He looks at her, she accuses, well, she knows what he, well, she doesn't know what he is, but she suspects why she's there. And he goes, So let's get to drawing after so long. Okay. Okay, so let's go. Right. She does her little a little bit of accusatory, and usually I draw at whatever size I wish at this point, because I can just resize it, rescale it, and all of that. So I'm not too concerned of how it looks and all that. Okay. Also, at this point, I don't need my reference folder, although it can help. And how I get my reference inside this, I go, let's see, where is it? Where is it? Is it edit? I'm starting to import. Yeah. Okay. I blanked out for a moment. Okay, so file, image, well, import image. I have a folder with all of this. So I select the items I want, open them, scale them up a little bit, scale it up a lot. I move this up, move this down, and scale this of our lead character. Okay. And this is my reference. And let's say on top, we make a reference folder. Ref. And put all of that inside, if I can find it now. Okay, so it's the top 3. Put that into reference folder. And so now I can turn that on and off in case I need a refresher of what everyone looks like. So if you'll notice from the reference, the mer person looks like this, in their disguised form, and this in their undersea adversary form. I'm not sure what I'd call this, but the true form is yet to be revealed. But let's say this is the sea sage. Yes, let's call it. No. Yeah. Let's call it the sea sage form. Sea sage form. But I try to keep an idea of, all the characters, what they look like, and all of that. Okay, so I don't need that. So we can do a, let's go back to this. Double P for the pencil. So let's say he's looking at her. She's looking at him. He's got the sandwiches and tea. And let's say between the two is Demon Cat and Mokton. So, and again, this is so early, I don't really Right, it's just squiggles. Right, and they're watching this unfold. I like this panel. Okay. So hit the M for the marquee or the lasso tool, whichever you want to call it. Command T, and I can move it into place and change the size if I need to. Is it going to be a long vertical, or should I have it here? I'll probably make a long vertical. We'll see. I don't know. Okay. Mokton is DC is gonna say don't. P twice. And Mokton, DC, why do I keep getting? DC is always, for the most part, the voice of reason, the not quite phased, so he says don't. He's got his little horn. One side of his hair is always nice and clean, the other's slightly janky. He's got his little suit on. Don't. And usually I just draw images and then I place them where they should be placed later. Lasso tool. Command T. Now I could make this a panel in panel. Oh, or I could put it this slightly here, this here with the text, don't. Or slightly below them, don't. That might work better. I'm working all this out on the fly. Don't. I'm just talking to myself. Okay. She goes into battle stance. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hit P twice. Her head is more of a block. I keep forgetting. And so she's getting her little since they're underwater, I wonder, right? Because I don't know. Taking a stance in an underwater fight. I'll think about it. I'll think about how that would work. Right. So it's slightly threatening. And then he's the mer person. Let's say he is not amused. And he says something like Chaos Bringer. To which she is unfazed. Right? So. And she loves to fight, so this is her element. And then she plants her foot. Right, getting ready to pounce. And she goes in for the punch. So she attacks. And he starts to reveal his true form. Well, not his true form, but... So there's... I think I'll have some kind of effect. I don't know what exactly. But he's starting to shift into his sea sage form. Right. I could have an image superimposed on top of another image so that it's like a blend using transparency and something like that. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know yet. And so that, I think, is that. Yeesh. Okay, let's save this. And so that is approximately what page 9 is going to look like. So page 8, Merperson comes in, offers snacks. She says no thanks. He crosses in front of her. She realizes, you're it. And he's like, what? She's a little bit more imposing in her accusation. DC says, don't. She gets to stance. He says, Chaos Bringer. She smiles, plants foot, and it's go time. And as he changes, Mockton says, Sea Witch. DC says, not a sea witch. She's frozen through sea telekinesis. Let's say hard. He has her locked like in a shell of water or something like that. And he reveals kind of his shape-shifted form, the sea sage. DC says she's clever. She smiles. Gold flash. Blinding the sea sage. She gets out of his hard water telekinesis thing, goes behind a rock behind him. He says he's blinded. DC has Mockton's eyes covered, and he has his eyes closed while he's sipping some tea. And that ends, well, this part. I'm not to go into more. So far, so good. So far, so good. I can kind of see where I'm going. The hardest part is starting a comic. That is the hardest part. Once you get like into a flow of where the story's going, everything feels like it flows a little bit better. Okay, but before we end, I would like to go over chapters. Let's see, where are we? Where are we? Chapter. There we go. Chapter 3. Where are those pages? Here. Okay. Let's take a look at pages 1 and 2. Let's see that. Because this will give you a better idea of my process changes from comic to comic. As I get one comic done, usually I roll all the, what would you call it, gains, everything that I've learned from one to the next. So for this, here's an example of chapter 3, page 1. And it has all the stuff I was talking about previously, right? It has the borders, the white framing, right? White gutters, if you will. There's different panel sizes for emphasis on, certain actions. I have a character coming out of frame. Different panel sizes. Some don't have, going all the way to the edges and whatnot. I have one where it has the, right, a big background where it has only one side has the border. Right, again, a character coming out of the frames. Text, all of that. And usually once you have one page, it's easier. Let's see. It gets easier and easier as you go along. Those are the PNGs. Those are the inks. I'm looking for an actual page. Where did I put it? I don't think it was there. Okay. Ooh. All right. This isn't it either. Well, let's see one more time if I can find it. Yeah, if I could. Those are the inks. What is this? And new. I thought it was. Huh? Is this it? Is it it? Let's see. It's quite large. All right, here we go. Yeah, they are quite large. I save things larger just in case I need it later. So, before we leave this whole thing, this is what a proper end result page looks like. Again, it's in Clip Studio Paint, so it has these things I can get rid of. View, crop marks, and default borders. I can take that off. So now it's just a clean white. All right. Let's see what else. At the very top, I have my character designs. All right, with my color swatches, so I can select colors. Once they're on the character, I can just select them and then paint the character. So that's what that's for. I have this image that sits outside of, right? I wanted her to pop out of the frame, which is for emphasis. So I have her above everything else. I have the frames, and inside the frames, I'm sure is that white border. Right. Without it, the backgrounds extend, right, and all of that. This makes it cleaner and actually looks like a sequence of events happening. Below that, below the frames, is the text. Below the text is my line work. Now usually I put this in the comic page file, so things have evolved since this chapter. So this was where I put my comic page. It would also have the colors in it. I've slightly changed my process. This is the effects folder, and the first two panels have this. She's, a bit of a transition effect of her hopping through a portal into this new dimension, and that's how I did that. And then I have the colors, which also have the background. I now separate the background and the colors and the inking. So the inking, the colors, is in one folder called the comic page, and then the BG, the background, would be in a separate folder. But here it's just all in the colors. And I still have my placeholder file, which has all the stuff before. But in the older times, I changed this folder to the OG folder, which is where the earliest stuff happens. The comic page formatting, the earliest sketches, I put that all in the original folder. And then as I separate those things out into their old folders, like text, frames, comic pages, all of that, they each have their own separate folder. Just helps with, placement and all of that. So that is what this page 1 looks like. For page 2, about the same. Also, right, over the frames, I have some certain stuff, because again, I have things popping out of frames. For effect, I have the frames themselves. I have the frame borders with the white. All right, without it, everything, the background blends together and all of that. Below that is the lines, the ink lines. But I now put the inks and the colors together in one. Oh, I guess I could say separated, just so I know that which one's which. Yeah, I can do that. There's a layer that I usually have blank for the text and all that. I have a text layer. I have a placeholder. Let's see if I can see that. A placeholder. Oh. I still have my the sketch and the scratch dialogue on there. Again, everything's an evolution, right? Now I include the balloons and the text so I know exactly how much space I need for characters and whatnot. So that's placeholder, OG file. What's in the OG file? So I have the old inks in this OG file. Okay. So I go from this to this. All right, so sketch to inks. Both of that to colors. Text. The inks on top of the colors. Frame borders. What pops outside of the frames. So that is the anatomy of a full page. And I don't need to save that, because that would take a while. This stuff can get pretty large with all the stuff, the effects, colors, inks, all in one. At this size, can kind of slow down things. But I don't need it, so that's the example of a completed page. And I have a flattened version just. All right. So that was a long road. That was my process for comics. This is early stages. I just showed you some of the final stages and the file stuff for the files, what I put in files. Now the process changes every time. As I get better, I try to streamline things, add things, remove stuff, try to combine certain phases and all of that. But it's, at this point, it's pretty consistent. I'm always learning all the time from especially more skilled artists, those who have been doing it longer, which, is always never stop learning. And that's always fun. But this is my process. So that was 8, 9, and 10. So next week we're going to return to the Wolverine illustration, where I will finish it out. I got to finish it out before the game comes out, which is September 15th, I believe. So we're on a deadline, and I got to get that thing done. So next week we'll do that until the final's done, and we'll go through the whole process, I guess, for the 3 weeks until I'm done. Whew. So thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Power to all the creators, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining. Bye.